Welcome back here, the whole 9 yards on a Thursday afternoon. Drew Pien here with Brandon Krikorian. Brandon, how's it going?
It's been going well last week, but today's gonna be an exciting episode. I was looking forward to this episode. Maybe you weren't looking forward to it as much, but I think it's gonna be fun because we can actually talk about the two teams that we like, not just we like all the NFL teams and it's fun doing that, but it's a lot more fun. You can actually talk specifically about your own teams, no matter what if they won or lost. So I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, I wish we had just access to the podcast studio like after Sunday's game or something, because I would have liked to talk about this game on Sunday. But obviously now it is Thursday. So we'll kind of start Cowboys, Patriots. Timestamps will be in the description. Feel free to skip around if you don't want to listen to this or whatever. But Cowboys, Patriots, obviously Cowboys take the dub there and overtime. I mean, what was your reaction what was your first reactions from that game? And then we'll kind of start to get into, we're going to do 3 ups, 3 down for both teams combined. So
I guess first reaction, yeah. I mean, well, first off, I'll say I agree. Like, this would have been a perfect game to do right after because that's when the emotions were high and everything. But I think first reaction was that's a game that we lose in the past, and I think on your side of it, that's usually a game that you guys win in the past. So it felt good to be able to win a game like this where, if you look at the stats-wise, I mean, we probably should have won this game by at least a touchdown. I mean, technically we did, but, a more comfortable lead, a more comfortable game. The yards that we had and the time of possession, we just completely dominated. So you look at that and you should say, yeah, they probably should have won by at least a good amount. And that didn't happen because of penalties and then even a turnover, 2 turnovers or whatever that we had. So a lot of missed points, a lot of bad plays, not totally focused, I would say, at least in the first half. That's when we really killed ourselves with the penalties. So to be able to win a game like that, on the road in a tough environment against, even though they're 2-4 now, it's still a tough team to play against, obviously with Belichick anyways. So it was honestly just relief that we won the game and that it was over and that, you don't have to worry about that. But it was also good to have knowing that you can win a game like that on the road. And then, later in the season, that's going to have to come down. We go to Kansas City in a couple weeks. When we get to the playoffs, we're most likely going to be on the road at some point if you want to advance, unless we do end up with the top record, but I doubt it. Yeah, that's just a good game to have. It's a good game in the regular season to win. I would probably say relief and I guess excitement.
yeah, no, that's totally a game that in the past where the Patriots are winning that game and the Cowboys are probably losing. There's some questionable calls. I don't think either head coach had a good game. Specifically McCarthy, to be honest. But I don't think either Bill or McCarthy coached very well. I guess looking at Bill's game, I don't know if you remember, but we had got a stop on defense to end the half, and then we just decided to kneel the ball with more over a minute.
Well, a minute 30 left.
Minute 30 left. To me that was egregious. I mean, because what were you expecting? What was Bill expecting to win this game 21-10? It's just not going to win games like that. That's not, I think you expected kind of like the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game from 2018. You knew this offense is just too talented to not come and score more than 30 points this game, even though they had only had 10 and a half. I would have tried to make something out of it. I mean, this is not nearly the same spot or situation really, but it's kind of close as the 2001 Super Bowl where you could have just kneeled the ball and taken overtime against the Rams, but obviously you decided to try to get a late field goal, which led to Adam Vinatieri's game-winning field goal. That's kind of obviously famous because that's the first Patriots Super Bowl, and that's when John Madden had said to just kneel the ball and take overtime because Tom Brady hadn't been in this spot before.
The only thing I'll say to that is that if you look at the 4 of the last 5 possessions before that, it was Cowboys interception. This is all the offense. Patriots fumble, that was on the sack. A field goal for the Cowboys, a blocked punt on the Patriots punt attempt, and then the Cowboys fumbled, obviously with the Dak reaching over the goal line. So maybe he was just thinking, they probably could have had a couple more points. We possibly could have more points. Let's just maybe try and mitigate the losses here. Because if something happens, if they fumble, if they throw a pick, then that's easy points right away. So I do kind of agree. They probably should have pushed it again. At that point, you're up 14-10. If you can get that to a 7-point game going into half where you receive the ball, that's obviously huge. That's just an extra possession that you have. So, yeah, I could definitely see that. But also, you probably have to think about just trying not to force anything. And then, again, let's say Mac throws a pick, and then we have perfect field position for possibly a touchdown, but at least 3 points. So I think that's probably the way he was looking at it. But I do somewhat agree with what you were saying.
Yeah, no, I just think you had to. I mean, clearly you obviously should have in hindsight, but at the time I was questioning that. I was like, is there something I'm just not realizing? Or, like, because we should not be kneeling this ball out and going into halftime. I get you have a lead, but, like, I just didn't understand that. But I guess we just get into our, unless you have anything to say, we get into our 3 up, 3 down. So 3 best players from this game and 3 worst. Do you want to start with worst or best?
I think we should do 1 and 1, like best, worst, best, worst, best, worst. Or you want to do 3 best?
I was thinking 3 best and then 3 worst.
All right, so okay, let's do 3. Let's do the best then first. I think that's better. I'll start with mine. I'm going with Dak.
As best?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is my first best. I thought he was great. I mean, his QBR was only 52, which again, I'm not even really sure how that's like totally calculated and everything, because he definitely played better than a 52 QBR. But just stats wise, 36 of 51, 445, 73 of those yards were in overtime, but still 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Didn't get sacked, which actually surprised me. You know, it seemed like they had pressure, at least good pressure, and it seemed like they somewhat got home to him. But again, we had a lot of penalties. That probably saved a couple sacks as well. But he just played amazing. This was similar to the Tampa game week 1 where you just couldn't run the ball. The Patriots did a great job at taking the run away. Even though we still ended up with 122, it was not a good 122. Under 4 yards per carry on that. So he played really well. He had to throw the ball. He made big throws when he had to. The only mistake he made was the pick. That should have been a touchdown. He looked a lot closer in the coverage in live action, but on the replay you could tell he was pretty wide open if he just hit him, if he was leading him instead of throwing it behind him. So that could have been obviously 7 more points right there, but that was the only mistake he had. But he was great. He made the throws when he had to. The 4th and 4 to Cedric Wilson. That was a great throw. You could say it was high, but I think he meant to throw it high because I don't know who was covering him, but he was going for the pick there. That was a great throw. He made great throws throughout the game, great reads. He played as the best player in this game. He was the best player in this game going into it anyways, and he just had a great game. So for sure my first best player out of the 3.
Yeah, my first best player was Randy Gregory. I thought he was the best defensive player for the Cowboys. And by the way, try to bring your mic closer to your face because you're just a bit quiet for when. It was Randy Gregory for me. Obviously, the strip fumble on Mac Jones, just a monster hit. One that's like Mac Jones's welcome to the NFL moment. Like he definitely did not face anything like that in Alabama, and he has not had a hit like that in the first 5 games leading up to this one. Yeah, I thought he was just very disruptive, the best defensive player for the Cowboys, and without Randy Gregory, there's a very solid chance the Cowboys do not win this game. So I thought Gregory was the best Cowboy.
Yeah, and he's been great the last couple of weeks. Coming off the injury, suspension, obviously, like everything he's always had to deal with in his career. He's been great without Lawrence. And then us putting Micah back at linebacker, I thought he's played amazing. And 2 sacks, the forced fumble. That was a big point because, again, that's when those turnovers were happening, and maybe the Patriots could have got some extra points there. So, for sure, I was thinking of him as well. But second best player, I'm sticking with the Cowboys, and I'm going another defensive player, and I'm going Trayvon Diggs. Even though he technically got burned on the next play after, obviously, the pick 6, if you look at that play, he really didn't get burned that much. He was still in good coverage, and he knew he had safety help over the top. So, and I think that he was thinking that the safety was going to go for the pick, so Diggs let off, and then I don't know what the safety was doing, but DeMonte Casey then got arrested a couple days ago. But besides that play, which again I don't think is entirely his fault, the pick 6 was just huge. I mean, at that point in the game, we missed the field goal, another controversial decision by McCarthy, like you were talking about. We missed the field goal when we could have went 4th and 4th down. He gets the pick. Not a great throw from Mac, but still a catchable ball, I would say. But to catch it, hurdle over the guy, get a pick 6 as well. That obviously was a huge play. Could have won us the game right there, but obviously we had to come back for a drive to tie it up, send it to overtime. But Yeah, he's played amazing. I mean, the entire season, 7 picks in 6 games. It's ridiculous. And yeah, that was just a huge play at a huge time. And that's exactly what you needed. So I would say he's my second best player. Could have went with Gregory as well, but that Diggs play was too big.
Yeah, no, I think Diggs had a solid game. I just, because of the 75-yard touchdown, I couldn't put him in my top 3. But for my second, I'm going with CeeDee Lamb. He had a just monster game. He was the best receiver on the field across both teams for sure. 9 receptions, 149 yards. Obviously the game winner in overtime, 2 touchdowns in total. Just a monster game. If you can get this from CeeDee Lamb going forward every week consistently, then I see no reason why he won't be the best Cowboys receiver over Cooper. Cooper's already kind of an inconsistent receiver to begin with, and if you can get consistent play out of Lamb, which I think you can, so I think he has potential and may already be the best receiver on the Cowboys. He was my second best player.
Yeah, again, another guy I was thinking about going with was Lamb. But for my third best player, I'm actually going with someone on the Patriots, and I'm going with Damian Harris. I thought he looked really good in the run game, especially on that first drive after they stopped us on downs. They had the 2 big plays on the rushing attack. They get the touchdown. He didn't get the second touchdown. That was Ramondre Stevenson who got it, but it could have been easily Harris. He was the one who brought them on that drive. That was a key drive in the game. As soon as the first 2 runs of that drive happened, you could tell we just couldn't stop the run. Good play calling because they just kept sticking with it. They kept getting huge runs on it. It was a 13 play 75-yard drive. They just were running it down our throats. Again, he could have got the touchdown for that. Could have ended up with 2 touchdowns and over 100 yards. But I thought he played really well. They kind of had to go with the passing attack, and I guess I'll save it for when we're done with the worst players. But the drive where the pick 6 happened, they were throwing it there. I mean, I guess I'll ask it later, or you can answer it later. But do you think they should have been running the ball there because of how effective they were in running at that point? But I still thought he played a really good game, and I know he was injured coming into the game, but I thought he was the best player for the Patriots, at least offense. I could have went with Mac Jones as well, but I thought Harris was more effective in the running game.
Yeah, Damien, if this list was top 5 or 6, I think I'd go with Harris. Harris was for sure in contention for this for me. He just didn't quite make it. My third best player, though, is also a Patriots player. I went with Juwan Bentley. I think this might have been the best game I've seen him play as a Patriot. Maybe there's a game in his rookie year where he was better than this, but he had a complete game, and this is a weakness for the Patriots, is the linebacking core, and it still is 100% a weakness. It's horrible. Aging Van Noy, aging Hightower, a bunch of aging pieces, but Juwan Bentley kind of had a down year last year and had frankly not been good up to now. But obviously the play at the goal line to stuff Dak, which is another reason I did not have Dak in this top 3. I know it's not 100% his fault, but I mean, you have 2 quarterback sneak attempts.
Again, one wasn't. But
I mean, I'm not going to say it wasn't in, but listen, it's a quarterback sneak from the 1-yard line. If you're not for sure in, then you're doing something wrong. So yeah, I went with Bentley. I thought he had a very good game. Listen, he's typically a guy that's pretty slow and kind of just a gap filler, but he had a good game. And especially saving that touchdown against the Cowboys on that one play with the quarterback sneak was obviously just huge. So
yeah, I was thinking about going with Bentley or Harris. I think his stats-wise, I think he had 13 tackles. 13 tackles, 11 solo, 1 tackle for a loss. Obviously, the forced fumble on Dak. He was flying around and making plays, so I was going to go with him as well. But those were our 3 best players. Now, for the 3 worst players, my first worst player, going back to the Cowboys, Connor Williams. He played a terrible game. He's easily been the weakest link on this offensive line. I guess him or Biotish, but I'm going to give it to Williams because he's been in the league for now, I think it's his 3rd or 4th year now. Biotish basically is a rookie still, so he has to be able to play better. Too many holding calls, too many dumb penalties that just cost us on drives. It's happened all year, but you saw it in this game especially. One of them was necessary because Dak would have got sacked, but the one that happened before the final field goal where he got a holding call, then unnecessary roughness call, which I don't think they ever showed a replay of that. I don't know what exactly happened on that play. They never showed it.
Connor Williams?
Yeah, on the unnecessary roughness. They never showed that.
I think they did show it, but
if they did, I don't remember seeing it, and I don't remember what it was. Yeah, just too many penalties that easily could have cost us. Again, that was a 15-yard penalty right there. That could have been a huge penalty at a point where we were basically in field goal range, and it set us back. So he had a really bad game, and he needs to step it up for the rest of the season. But just in particular for this game, yeah, he easily could have cost us this game with his penalties that he had.
Yeah. So I didn't do this in like a first worst, second worst, third worst, but I did have Connor Williams on my list of worst out of my three. Yeah, just an awful game. And really, you could have listen. I'll go with another one of my second worsts now. So Connor Williams was a part of that. You could have also put like Smith too, I think. You could have really put you could have put both offensive lines as a unit. Both of them could be in this. I go with the Patriots just offensive line. You could realistically bring up any of them. You could say Ferentz was awful. James Ferentz was awful. Heron was not good as well. Isaiah Wynn was not good. He did not play many snaps. He only played 9 snaps, but not good either. Really, the Patriots offensive line was garbage. Both offensive lines to me were not good in this game. So that would be my, I don't know if I'll call it my second worst or whatever.
Okay, so just I guess offensive line in general.
Yeah, but I mean, if I had to pick a name, my names would be Connor Williams and then James Ferentz.
Whoever your right tackle is. Who's that? Who's
Heron.
Your right tackle?
Heron.
Yeah, I would say he probably. I mean, Gregory had 2 sacks on him, right? Or I guess he had one. The strip sack was on him. The other one was a stunt on the left side. So I guess whoever your left guard is, because I think he's.
Yeah, no, that's Ferentz. Ferentz was awful. He was awful.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess those two. Yeah. And just another stat on Williams. He's the most penalties in the league at 9. I mean, that just obviously shows you what we're talking about in this game. And Smith, I think some of those penalties were. I don't know if they were actual penalties. I mean, the hands to the face, I think was, but it wasn't even really to his face. And then some of the holding ones, I don't know. But still not a great game. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. But my second worst, I guess this could have been first worst, to be honest. But going to the Patriots, Jalen Mills. I mean, he had a really bad game. Not only just giving up, he gave up both touchdowns to Lamb. The first one, I mean, we were inside 2 yards and we run a fade route, and I mean, I think he had 3 yards of separation on a 2-yard route, which was ridiculous. And then he was playing so off coverage on the touchdown. I mean, like, I don't know why he wasn't playing closer up. He gave him at least like 7 yards on a release, and then that was a wide open touchdown. Also, where was the safety on that play? That was weird. But yeah, Mills had a terrible game. I mean, knowing him from the Eagles and everything, he's always pretty bad. He usually makes a play, but that obviously didn't happen in today's game. And yeah, he was just getting, I don't know exactly what his numbers were against, targets and receptions, but it was most likely pretty bad, I would say.
Jalen Mills was also on my list. You could throw Jalen Mills here at number 1 for worst, or Connor Williams, or Ferentz, or Heron, or whoever really. Just Mills was awful. The overtime play against the game winner, I think you can blame fatigue on that as much as you can. Jalen Mills is also just bad, but he had a horrible game. He should not be the second corner on this team. It should be J.C. Jackson with Gilmore being back, but obviously we traded Gilmore. So we're going to have to deal with Mills as the second corner, at least for now. I don't know maybe he moves to the slot and Jones is your second corner, but I don't think so. Jones is a solid slot corner, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, Mills just had a bad game. It was very bad, very bad. So
yeah,
I kind of felt weird, because I have Mills as one of my worst and Lamb as one of my best, but that's just what happens when a guy who has a great week plays against a guy who has a awful week. So
yeah, exactly.
And so I actually have one more bonus, and this is what I was saying to Brandon. I kind of cheated, but this isn't. I mean, it doesn't count. It's not one of my 3, but if this was a player, he would be probably number 1 for me. Mike McCarthy, I think. Listen, I just think he's bad. I legitimately think you obviously wouldn't fire a coach right now, being 5-1, but I mean, if you win the Super Bowl, right? If you told me right now the Cowboys will win the Super Bowl in 7 months or whatever, 5 months from now, I would say the Cowboys won it in spite of McCarthy.
Yeah, most likely. And I think we talked about it last week or maybe the week before or something that, like what would they do if McCarthy, like they're easily going to win the division. Let's say they get to the championship game and lose. Like, would you just put Kellen Moore as the head coach? And honestly, I think no matter what happens at the end of the season, I think Kellen Moore will be the head coach. I'd be very surprised if he's not. And it's going to be tough because we're most likely going to go 13-5 or 12-5 or 13-4. And most likely at least get to the championship game. I mean, again, that's a long way away. But
I don't know about most likely, but
I mean, I think this team is a top 3 team in the NFC. So I think as long as you don't have to face the Bucs or Rams, I think we have a pretty good shot against the Cardinals, Packers, or whatever other team there is, in my opinion. But I just don't think you can let Moore go away because I think he's the next Shanahan, McVay. No matter however you think of those guys, he is clearly one of those next type of guys, and he's been in house since 2014. He drafted him or whatever. He was a backup quarterback, started a couple games, went to OC. He's been the OC the last 3 years. It's tough not to make him head coach after the season's over, no matter how you end up. You're right, McCarthy isn't that good of a coach. I think he's good in the locker room, and I think he is good with the guys, but the decision-making isn't great, and honestly, I'd rather just have Moore be the head coach. If he's going to leave, he's obviously going to leave and be a head coach somewhere else, so you might as well just make him your head coach, right? I mean, I feel like that's the most logical way to look at it.
It depends. Like, if you win the Super Bowl, then what do you do?
It's super tough. It is, because, what do you do?
I mean, I think it's tough if you think about it, at a quick glance, but, if you actually sit down and think about it, unless Mike McCarthy somehow just becomes a good head coach, which to me, I don't even know if he's ever been a good head coach, arguably, then I don't know. I don't see a way in which you can keep McCarthy after this year, assuming Moore wants to be a head coach.
I mean, he definitely will get offered for that. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, no, 100%.
But, if, let's say they win the Super Bowl just quickly, and McCarthy, makes bad decisions, whether in the game or on the way there, that they have to, overcome, then even if they were to win the Super Bowl, those decisions are probably way heavy on decision making. So I think at that point for sure. But if he were to transform himself into a better decision maker or coach, I guess. But still, I'd hate to lose more because he's going to go to whatever other team is, whether maybe a Raiders would want him because they're trying to I don't know, whatever team would want him. There's going to be some team, and I think he'd be pretty good at any other destination.
I mean, the decision to kick the field goal, it was a 49-yarder or something?
51 yards.
51 yards?
4th and 1, maybe even less than 1. I don't know.
Horrible decision. I know you won the game, but listen, if the Patriots were any better, I think you'd be regretting that decision. But
yeah, and I think at almost every 4th and 1 play, and the Cowboys did run it, you should run an end around when the wide receiver just comes, you just give it right to him off the snap. It works every single time. I don't think there's a time where that play doesn't work.
Well, having watched a lot of end arounds, I can definitely think of end arounds where it doesn't work, but
it's got to be at least 95% of the time it works. It's just it's so hard to stop because you'd rather need your defensive end to make an insane play or the guy who's running with him to somehow catch up to him. It's just someone or a wide receiver to miss a block. It's just too many small things that can't happen that it's almost like a success at like I said, 95%.
Yeah, I don't even I
think it's better than running up the middle, right? I mean, with a running back or something. So,
I don't know. Depends. I mean, Zeke wasn't going to be in my top 3 worst, but if this was a top 7 worst, I 100% could see Zeke in here.
I don't know. I think at the beginning he was. I think he was better towards the end, but they also took away the run really well. He still ended up with 4 yards per carry, which kind of surprised me when I saw it. But I think he was in the middle. I think if the first half was only the first half, I think he'd probably be 3 worse. But he got better towards the end, I'd say.
I mean, if Zeke is would you have Zeke in your top 5 running backs right now?
Right now, yeah.
I mean, if Zeke's a top 5 running back, listen, he was not the best running back on the field that game, I don't think.
No, but I think you also have to look at the defensive game plan that the Patriots put together. I mean, it's not like the Titans offense where it's only Henry. I mean, if they were to throw the ball, they're going to lose the game. So you have to run the ball. Clearly our team, you could say almost better when we throw the ball, and sometimes we're better when we run the ball. But it's so even that either one works out. So you can go away from the run game and still be as effective. Where if you're a Titans or another team that relies heavily on the run, the Browns, you're just not as good when you throw the ball, more than you run the ball.
I'm not going to say that the Patriots set out to stop the run. I just think the Patriots are so bad in the past that the Cowboys regardless of how good their run game was, I'm not sure that they were gonna, make that like a point to, a point of attack.
I think you saw in the beginning they were like we were probably averaging 2 yards per rush at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
So I would put that towards the run defense, because the beginning of the game we usually dominate in the run, and then the passing can come later if it's a close game. So I thought they did a good job, and I do. I mean, again, we were also in like first and 20s almost the entire first half, so maybe that's why as well. But I guess is that it for the worst and best?
Yeah.
And I guess, is there anything else from the game, like any plays or any other decisions that we want to talk about?
I mean, there definitely would be if this was Sunday night.
It is tough that it's a couple days later. But I don't know. I think that's probably it. I don't know.
There were some questionable Mike McCarthy things I wanted to talk about. There's some probably questionable Belichick things I wanted to talk about too. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think that's it. It would have been a lot better if it was Sunday, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Well, we'll look at the rest of the NFL for the upcoming week 7 now, and we'll just get into predictions. Right now, Brandon, can you work on the records?
So you went 1-4.
Did I? No, I went 2-1.
Or 2-1. All right. So you're 14-14 and 2.
I'm 14-14-2. So I'm 500 right now.
And
not bad. Not great, but
I'm 22-7-1.
Okay.
Then you're, just fix this right here. 14-14 and 2. Yep. All right.
Well, I'll say this, for week 7, we do have at least one game. We have one game that we picked to the same outcome. But we have one game that we picked that you picked one team and I picked the other team. So
I will say before we say what our predictions are, I hated almost every single game this week. I thought it was a really bad slate of games this week.
So you're not confident in it, though?
No, I'd be super happy if I can get to 2-3.
Really?
I just didn't like the games.
Wow.
I didn't like the games at all. I was looking through them. I knew a lot of teams were on buys, a lot of teams that and I also knew the matchups this week were good teams against bad teams. So I just didn't love the games. I hope, like I said, I can get 2-3 because I don't know. I really didn't like the games, honestly. They're just not good, in my opinion. I guess you like them. I don't know.
No, I don't love them or hate them. No, but I agree on the bye thing. I mean, the Chargers are on a bye. Obviously, the Cowboys are on a bye.
Vikings are on a bye.
Steelers are on a bye.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we're going to start seeing a lot of buys as we go on throughout the year. But, yeah no, I agree. I guess I'll just go with my first game. And this is a game that we both picked and picked different people. Bengals at Ravens. Ravens 6.5-point favorites. I'm going with Cincinnati. I don't love Cincinnati, but I think they're a competent football team, and I think they've proven that through the first 6 weeks of the NFL season. I think they can battle. I don't think they're going to just give up in the first quarter like they typically do against the Ravens every single year. I think this is going to be a game that comes down to the wire. I'm going to pick the Ravens to win. I think the Ravens still win this game, but I think it's a close game. And listen, as high as everybody are on the Ravens and Lamar, because he's arguably been the MVP so far, their record's 5-1 right now, right?
Yeah.
They should not be 5-1. They should not have won the Lions game. There's some other games they may it's like, while they have played for sure a top team, they're not miles better than the Bengals, I don't think. At least not consistently. They have not proven that. If they have a week like they do against they did against the Lions, they're not going to win this game. Now I'm going to pick them to win, but I think it's by less than 6.5. I pick Ravens 24-21. I think it's probably a last minute field goal, and then the Ravens can get a stop on Burrow with maybe Burrow has 40 seconds left, no timeouts or something like that. But yeah, I think it's a close game. I'll go with Cincinnati to cover, but the Ravens to win.
Yeah, I was deciding between Bengals Ravens. I went with the Ravens. Like you said, minus 6.5. The Bengals don't have an amazing run defense, and that is what I look for when you go against a Browns, a Ravens, a team like that. It's obviously is going to run the ball most of the time. So they don't have a great run defense. Ravens are also at home, which I think they do play way better at home than on the road. That's just that's almost like a fact, honestly, at this point. And yeah, I think the Bengals can keep it close. I don't think it's gonna be a blowout or anything like that. I'd be very surprised, but I think that this Ravens pass rush is gonna get to Burrow. I think the Ravens defense is gonna have a really good game. Maybe similar to what they did against Herbert last week. We'll see, but I think they're going to get a lot of pressure on him. The Bengals offensive line obviously isn't that good. I think the only way the Bengals can really keep it close, like down to the end, is that running game has to be effective in order for them to be able to keep moving the ball and give Burrow time in the pocket so that they can play action or do different stunts on offense that can at least pause the defense for a second to give him more time. But I think the Ravens are going to have a good day defensively. I think Lamar is going to have a really good day again. Obviously that prediction of you and Lamar isn't looking great right now, but I think the Ravens are just going to be able to win. I think probably at the end they may get a touchdown or they may just cause a turnover that gets them another possession, then they score on that. And I think they'll be able to cover 6.5. But again, I'm not totally confident in it because I do think it will be a close game. But I'm taking Ravens minus 6.5.
Second game, this is a game we both picked the same team. Chiefs at Titans. We're both taking the Chiefs, who are favored by 5. And I'm taking the Chiefs because the Titans are off a Monday night game. Came down to the last second against arguably the top team in the AFC, and now they got to play the Chiefs, and they get to play the Chiefs at home, which is nice. But listen, it's so tough for me to bet against the Chiefs, and the offense has not been a question. The offense is still really good. Mahomes, obviously, Hill, Kelsey. There's just this offense is still to me the best or the second best offense in the league. So the defense is a question, and can you run the ball with Derrick Henry against the Chiefs? You can, but listen, just because you have the best running back in the league and Derrick Henry does not mean that you're going to be able to keep up with the Chiefs offensively. Like, I don't think this is the Titans defense is bad. I don't think this is a game where the Chiefs are punting a bunch, and I don't think you can just run the ball the whole game. So I think Tannehill's going to have to throw the ball, and I'm not sure that Brown or Julio are as good as we think. I've always thought A.J. Brown's overrated. Julio, just listen, his career might be done. We don't really know. He still has flashes, but he's not in his prime for sure. And Tannehill, I've never been a big fan of. There were some people that thought Tannehill was a top 10 quarterback, specifically the year where they went to the AFC Championship game. And then last year he didn't have a bad year, so people were kind of like, wow, he's like a sneaky top 10 guy. No. Tannehill is a sneaky, 16th best quarterback in the NFL. So I'll take the Chiefs to win, and I'll take them to win by, 8 points.
Wait, quickly, who would you rather have, Baker or Tannehill?
Are we including contract situations or what?
No, just who would you rather have?
Who's better, essentially? Who's just better? I think Tannehill's more consistent, but Baker has a higher high end. So I'll go with Baker. But
okay.
I think that's very close. I think they're both around that 16th best quarterback. And
yeah, that's why I was asking, because I knew you. We were talking about Baker last week or whatever, and he's not playing in the Thursday night game that's happening tonight, by the way.
Who would you rather have, Mac Jones or Baker Mayfield?
Mac Jones.
Okay.
I like Mac Jones. I think Mac Jones is gonna be really good.
What about for the rest of this season? Let's just say Baker. He's done this week, and that's it. And he's perfectly fine.
The rest of the season, I mean, I'd probably pick Baker because of the experience, and I think they're similar quarterbacks in the similar systems, but I think that Baker at least has the ability to throw it deep. Like, he kind of has a little bit more control of the offense, I would say. But Jones, if they let him throw it deep, I think that it's really going to expand their offense. You saw it a little bit in this past game. If they could throw it 15, 20 yards plus, I think it's really going to expand that offense.
That was another thing I actually wanted to bring up about the Patriots game was Mac Jones' arm is not impressive. Even the throw to Bourne just was kind of a Peyton Manning, just kind of not great looking throw. I think his arm strength will improve as he continues to develop in the NFL, but I think there's a reason that he's not throwing a lot of deep balls, and obviously because he's a rookie and you just kind of need to be more conservative in general, but also I'm not sure the arm strength is there, and especially I'm not sure the arm strength is there if he's having to move out of the pocket or not have just a fully intact pocket where he can step into all of his throws 20-plus yards down the field. So that was another thing I wanted to say, but whatever, that's completely irrelevant. So what do you feel about this Titans game?
Well, yeah, this game. So I looked at this game and I said it's all about the Chiefs' defense versus Henry. That's the only thing I'm looking at when I look at this game, and I think that the Chiefs' defense, they've been so bad so far this year, and I think that this game they're really gonna make a true effort to try and stop Henry. Because if they can stop Henry, I think we both know this, they're gonna be able to win this game because their offense is going into bad Titans defense. They still give up to 31 points to the Bills, and the Chiefs are pretty similar to the Bills, so I'm expecting probably 30 points from the Chiefs offensively. I think that they can at least move the ball against them, but it's all about the defense versus Henry. If they can limit him to like under 100 yards or 120, but maybe gets one touchdown, but he's not doing 3 touchdowns. He's not breaking a 50-yard run. He's not doing anything like that. I think they have a real shot at this game. Again, -5. I think that's pretty reasonable. Like I said, I think they're going to put up more than 30, so it's all about that run defense and the defense in general. Because once you get Tannehill passing, that's where you want them because that's where you can cause turnovers, and they're not going to be as effective, obviously, as if they were on the ground. So that's the biggest key, and I think that the Chiefs want to make a statement this game, saying that the defense is at least getting back to where it's at least it was the last couple years, and I think it's a good test against Henry, and obviously the game that he had on Monday night, and then also what you said, you beat the Bills at home, primetime TV, technically a short week playing Monday night, so that may cause a little bit of a factor in that as well, coming off such a huge high to then play a Chiefs team, which usually would be the biggest high, but right now it's probably not because just how bad they've been playing, but obviously that's more of a disguise, I would say, because the Chiefs are still one of the better teams in the NFL. So yeah, I think we're on the same page in this one, and yeah, Chiefs -5. I think this is probably the most confident game I'm in, I would say, for this week.
Okay. Though that's it for games that we both picked the same game. So I'll get into a game that I picked here. Panthers at Giants. The Panthers are 3-point favorites, and I'm taking the Panthers to win by more than 3 against the Giants. The Giants are so bad. I literally don't even... I'm pretty sure Jones is playing this game. But honestly, I don't care either way. I don't care who plays. I don't care if somehow Saquon is back. I don't think he's coming back anytime soon. Listen, the Giants could be fully healthy. I don't care. The Panthers have skidded from their 3-0 start. Darnold has not looked impressive. The defense has not looked nearly as good as people thought it was going to be after those first 3 weeks. People thought it was going to be not a great defense coming into the year. Obviously, statistically, was a top 2 defense in the league after 3 games, and I think everybody knew it wasn't a top 2 defense, but it was looking pretty bad the most 3 recent weeks. I expect the Panthers to kind of come out and have a rebound game, though. I still think they're competitive for a wild card position this year. I still think Darnold is a raw quarterback who has potential to be good in any week. He also has potential to throw 2 picks and look ugly in a week, but if he's going to be ugly, I don't anticipate him looking ugly against this Giants defense. It's not a bad defense, but it's not a great defense by any means, and there's no pressure on him to produce offensively against what is most likely a Devontae Booker-led offense. So, I'll take the Panthers to win by a touchdown or 2. And I think I think the Giants are done. I think after this year, this isn't that related, but I think after this year, I think Judge is gone. I think Gettleman is gone. I think they're just rebooting because I honestly think they've done very little right. So,
yeah, again, that was another game I probably at least looked at a little bit, but I honestly don't think the Panthers are that good without McCaffrey. And he's out for another 3 games. So yeah. Will they beat the Giants? They probably will, but I just didn't know how comfortable I felt with it because, they've shown that, they lost the Eagles. They could lose to a bad team like that. So we'll see. I think that's all about the Giants offense and if they can actually get some big plays.
I think the Giants are worse than the Eagles. I think the Eagles are actually better.
With their injuries, they are. If they're healthy, then the Giants are better, in my opinion. I think if you have Barkley, Galladay, Slayton, and Shepard, that's way better weapons than what the Eagles have.
Hurts is a better quarterback than Jones.
I don't know if he's that much better. I don't even know if he is better, and if he is, I don't know how much better he is. So I think the Eagles so far have been a better coached team. So, I think they've been conservative in their coaching. I don't know how much better they've been. I just think that the injuries have really messed up the Giants, in my opinion. And their defense was also supposed to be better. It's been really bad. But even still, I think with no injuries, I think the Giants are better. I expected the Eagles to be the worst team in this division going into the year, and I still think they are. So,
I expected that too. I expected them to be like top or bottom 3 team, but I honestly think they're like probably in that like 23, 24 spot where they're not good, but they've been competitive. So that's more than I can say for the Giants. Maybe we'll see it turn around. Maybe you're right. It's the injuries and just, the NFL is the NFL, but we'll see on that, I guess.
All right, well, sticking with the Eagles, I picked Eagles at Raiders, -3 for Las Vegas. That's what I picked. Yeah, I mean, kind of like I was saying. I mean, even though you look at the game last week for the Eagles against the Bucks, it ended up being a 6-point game. But if you watch that game, it was nowhere close to being a 6-point game. And even though the Raiders, obviously, surprisingly, I think they beat the Broncos last week with all the stuff with Gruden, and then, first game without him, all the controversy throughout the last 2 weeks. I think most people were kind of expecting them possibly to lose that game, especially being on the road. Even though they're probably better than Denver, it's just a really tough game with all the stuff going on. But now they're back home. I just think the Raiders are a better team than the Eagles are, and I think it could be close throughout the entire game. But I think the Raiders do pull away. I think they have more. Like explosive ability, especially with Ruggs. I think the way they've been using him now this year compared to last year is way better. Even though he's still not that good, and he definitely should not have been the first wide receiver taken. Still the wrong choice by far. But they're at least using him the correct way now, and I think that's huge for them. And then Waller, after that huge first game, he really hasn't done much. But I would expect him to have a big game in this one as well. So yeah, I think Raiders -3 is a good line, and yeah, I think they're just a better team and they'll win this game, just straight out, obviously. So yeah, Raiders -3.
My next game, I'm taking a Patriots game, surprisingly, which I never do. Jets at Pats. Patriots are favored by 7. I'm taking them to win by more than 7. To me, this is about the Jets, and I think the Patriots can rebound. You got a game at home here against the Jets. The Jets are bad. They're not Saleh. This could be one and done for Saleh. We'll find out. I don't think it'll be, but listen, it could be if they finish 1-16. Which listen, this team has been maybe slightly better than I thought, but they're 1-4 right now. Yeah. So. Yeah, I expect the Patriots to have a rebound win. I just think they're better across the board. I'm not sure if there's really anything the Jets are better at than the Patriots. If there is, it's the Jets are horrible. I think the Patriots they can't afford to lose this game or even make it competitive, because if that's the case and they're like out of the playoffs from week 6, which they might be out of the playoffs, but I don't anticipate the Patriots to be out of the playoffs by week 7, which if they were to fall in 2-5 and lose against the Jets would essentially be the case. So,
yeah. For my next game, I went Lions at Rams. Line was 16, which obviously is huge. And again, this is where I just didn't feel comfortable with a lot of games, so I chose this one, hoping. Actually, I see it now. Now it's -15, but we put it as -16. But obviously the Rams just destroyed the Giants last week. I'm just kind of expecting it to be like that, where they're going against a worse team in the Lions than the Giants are, and they're also at home now. I think they just put up points, and I don't see the Lions exactly putting up enough points to be within that 16. I think as long as the Rams put up more than 30, I think they're going to be fine. I don't see the Lions putting up like 20 points in this game. Also against a Rams defense that hasn't been playing great so far this year, but it's been playing better recently. So hopefully that plays a factor in it. Donald maybe has a big game. Goff, return game. We'll see what he does. But I expect it to be kind of a blowout, obviously. And yeah, as long as the Rams put up more than 30, I think they'll cover that one.
That's a lot of points, and
yeah,
obviously Goff is coming back to LA, which is interesting storyline-wise. Does it mean anything for the spread? We'll find out, but 16 is a lot, and I just if I pick a game that's like 16 or 12.5 or something like that, then I just feel like I can't even like I don't know, it's just very random. So that's why I was kind of scared of that, but I could 100% see the Rams blowing the Lions.
It's almost destined that like the Lions are going to score a touchdown that's going to get like 14, but it's just, yeah, I mean, again, 16 is not even the biggest line this week, which is crazy, but Yeah. What's your last pick?
My last pick is Colts at Niners, the Sunday night game. Colts are 4-point underdogs, and I am picking the Colts. I think it's going to be a close game. Carson Wentz has looked better as of recent, and I expect this Colts team to start the rebound. They've kind of already started it. I expect them to win this division still. I know the Titans just came off a really impressive win, but I still anticipate the Colts winning this division. I still anticipate Carson Wentz being a top 16 quarterback when this year's all said and done. So yeah, I think it's a close game though regardless. I think the Niners could win this game easily, but if they do, I think it's very close. This could be a game I could see going into overtime. If Carson Wentz doesn't have a great game, then this is going to be a game where I think both offenses kind of struggle. We'll see. This is Garoppolo's first week back. Is he going to even play through the full game? We'll find out. If so, he's still going to be rusty. So I expect this to be kind of an ugly game for two teams that have kind of just been, whether it's injured or just not had a great year though so far. They haven't looked great, but I still think these are two very solid teams. So I think it'll be an interesting game. I think it's close. If the Niners win, I think, I still think it's close. So yeah.
Yeah, I find these two teams very similar. They almost have similar structures. But yeah, we'll see in this game. I mean, yeah, the Colts played the Texans last week, but they have been playing better. They probably should have won that Ravens game, on 2 weeks ago on Monday night. So they've been playing better, and we'll see what Garoppolo looks like. I mean, I expect him to be good, but I don't know. I mean, that offense really isn't that good, to be honest. But for my last pick, I'm going Bears at Bucks. Line's 12.5. I'm taking the Bucks on this one. Coming off, they get an extended week, obviously playing last Thursday. The Bears, they're just not good offensively enough. I think that defense is at least good, but against an offense like this, it probably won't even matter, to be honest. Maybe they stop them, maybe they can do something that can, fault them a little bit, but it's not going to be enough to where you're holding them within like 20 points or anything to where your offense can score enough points to at least make it close or possibly win the game. So I think the Bucks still can put up 30 plus. On this team, and even if they don't even get to 30, I don't even know if the Bears are going to get more than like 2 touchdowns. Obviously you can't run the ball against the Bucks. You already don't have Montgomery anyways. I know whatever the guy's name was for them last week, Herbert, the running back last week had a good game against the Packers, but it's also against the Packers who aren't good against the run defensively. Now you're going against arguably the best run defense in the league, so I think that's going to take away obviously a whole side of their offense, and then you're relying on Fields to throw the ball, which I don't know is the answer right now. So I think the Bucks have a really good day defensively, and again, even if they don't put up 30 plus offensively, I think they can still cover 12.5. So that's my last game with the Bucks 12.5, and yeah, we'll see what the records look like after this week. Like I said, I'm not totally confident in the games I picked this week.
I've got a lot of ground to make up.
You need a big week.
I need a big week. I'm 14-14-2 or something like that, and you are 22-7-1. So I'm like what? I'm like 7 games back.
7.5 games.
7.5 games. I'm pretty far behind.
You need like a 4-1 week, and I need a 1-4 week. That's what you need.
Yeah, I mean that would certainly close the gap. So not all the way though, even, which is crazy, but yeah, that's that. Well, let's get into MLB. Both ALCS and NLCS have been pretty exciting. I guess as of recent, there's been some games you might say are less exciting, but I guess we'll start with the ALCS. Houston is up 3-2 after what looks like to some was the series was over. Boston after Game 3 was up 2-1, 12-3 win. It looks like some being from Massachusetts and listening to a lot of local stuff, there were a lot of people that thought this series was over already when it was 2-1 Boston. There were some that didn't think it was over, and now Houston's got a 3-2 lead. Just came off a 9-1 victory, and the game before was a close game until the 9th inning where the Astros broke that game open. I guess my first question to you is the series over? They technically don't play again until tomorrow at 8 p.m., but is the series over for you? Is the series over?
Yeah, the series is over. I think before the series I said Astros in 6, and it looks like it's going to be Astros in 6. Now, they do have a tough matchup against Evaldi, but he also did come in to pitch that ninth inning like you were talking about on Tuesday, where that's where this whole series flipped, was that game. Red Sox get two, they had the 2-run homer in the first, and they already gave up a homer, but now they're up 2-1. And throughout that entire game, they kept having guys on base, and it seemed like they probably should have scored more runs. They just never did. And you knew the Astros were going to come back and score, at least to tie it. Maybe they still would have lost the game, but you knew they were going to come back to tie it at some point. And it was going to be a close game, and we'll see who would have won that game. But this was all on the Red Sox. I think this is completely on them. If they win that game 4, this series, Boston's going to win. Even if they win game 5, they would have won game 6. That's the way it would have worked. That's the momentum that they had. But for them to keep the Astros in that game and not add more runs, it allowed the Astros to come back. They put up 9. They put up 7 in the 9th inning alone. So that's when the series flipped. And then obviously yesterday's game, Wednesday, they just destroy them 9-1. Wasn't really close. The Red Sox were basically getting no hit for the first half of the game. That's where the game flipped, or that's where the series flipped, I should say. The Red Sox offense went cold in times when they were hot in the first 3 games, and the Astros offense finally picked up and showed that experience that they have in the postseason. And their pitching hasn't been great, but yesterday was huge, getting 8 innings. It just completely saves your bullpen for what I think will be, and also a travel day, an off day. I think they're going to go all out for Game 6, in my opinion. I think they're going to try and win Game 6.
Wow, that's a.
You still have Game 7, but I think their pitching. They know their pitching isn't going to be there for that Game 7 start. So I think you have to go all in on Game 6. Now, obviously, if you give up a couple runs early and it's not looking good, then yeah, you probably save guys for Game 7, obviously. But I think they're going to try to go for Game 6. That's the game they want to win. And yeah, that's my opinion on it. And we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think the Astros win this game. I think they win on Friday, tomorrow. And yeah, it'll be Astros in 6.
I do not think this series is over at all. Listen, we've seen 2 teams they've played inconsistent as of now. Both teams have been pretty inconsistent. Both offenses have pretty big firepower. Have both been pretty inconsistent. Like you said, they've both been hot and cold. The Houston's kind of riding that momentum now, but you could have also said the same thing about Boston just a few days ago. So, and then both pitching staffs are pretty inconsistent. I don't think the series is over. I think it goes 7. I think the Red Sox pick up a win, and then Game 7. I mean, we'll see. It could go either way. We probably won't. By the time we record next, the series will be over regardless, unless we record before Saturday, which maybe happens. I don't know. Maybe if something crazy happens, Game 7, then we record right after that or something. I don't know. We'll see. But I'll pick the Red Sox. I picked the Red Sox to start. This is a resilient team, an Alex Cora-led team. Listen, I don't think Alex Cora is a perfect manager, but I think he's a pretty good one. And this team's been resilient. They had a great start to the year, obviously, and then fell off. And they kind of had that same thing this series. And I don't think this series is over. I didn't think it was over either back when Boston had a 2-1 lead. I didn't think the series was over either. I thought the Astros would make it competitive. I think this goes 7, and I still like the fact that I picked the Red Sox. I forget if I picked them in 6 or 7, but obviously that one they can only win in 7. So
I think you said 7.
Did I say 7? Okay, then I like my Red Sox in 7 pick. So I'm gonna stick with that. NLCS, Atlanta has a 3-1 lead.
With Game 5 being today, right?
Today now. At 8:08 p.m.
Yeah.
This series could arguably be over. The Dodgers have just not looked good at all, really. I mean, do you think the series ends tonight, or?
I don't think it ends tonight, but it's definitely not looking good for the Dodgers. And the one thing that they've now been starting to talk about in the broadcast, which looked like a major concern at the time, but then they kind of steadied it with the win over the Giants, was the Muncy injury, and that how much that affected them. Because if you have Muncy, one, he's just one of the better players in the MLB, so that obviously helps. But then he's playing first, and then Cody Bellinger can play center, which means Gavin Lux isn't in center, and we've seen the last 2 games there's been plays that a Gold Glove center fielder like Cody Bellinger easily makes. So the play at the wall that cost that big inning against Buehler, which knocked him out of the game. He wasn't great in the game, but if Lux makes that play, he's still in the game. He's probably giving you another 2-3 innings. So obviously would have been a huge help there. There was a play last night where Urias thought that Luck should have came harder on a ball that would drop in front of him. Again, a better center fielder, better reaction, a guy who's been out there longer than Lux has. He's obviously an infielder who's playing outfield, center field. I don't even know why he's actually playing center field. I don't know why he's not playing like left field or something, but they have him in center. Again, a play that maybe a better center fielder makes. So we've seen that happen to them. And again, losing Muncy as a bat, they lost Justin Turner last night. He pulled his hamstring. I'm just assuming that he's not going to play tonight or probably the rest of the series. So yeah, they've had major injuries. And then again, you look at their pitching staff, no Kershaw for the playoffs. Obviously the whole situation with Bauer, so you're really left with 3 pitchers and they just haven't pitched great. So they just haven't been the same team that they were in the regular season. And obviously Trey Turner as well. He's been terrible in the playoffs. I don't even know. Let me see what his average is, but it's not good at all in the playoffs so far. Yeah, they're just dealing with a lot of stuff going wrong, but I still think they'll win tonight. But I think they lose Game 6 in Atlanta. And the Braves had Max Fried going tonight. He's been really good in the playoffs, but I still think the Dodgers win. I don't think they go down in 5. I'd be very surprised if they lost in 5 games, but I guess we'll see.
Last year, the Atlanta Braves choked a 3-1 lead against the Dodgers, and I'm sorry to report that the Dodgers will once again come back from a 3-1 deficit in the NLCS, and they will be advancing to the World Series. I'm not going to – okay, I mean, I'm pretty much guaranteeing it. I'm not going to guarantee it 100%, but I think I have 80% confidence that the Dodgers will come back from this 3-1 deficit and – advance to the World Series. We both picked the Dodgers in this series. They've not looked like the same team. You're completely right. Turner needs to pick it up. There's some other bats there that need to pick it up. Cody Bellinger's been the one to win you your only game, and Cody Bellinger has been your worst player in the whole regular season. So it's not been conventional at all for the Dodgers. But listen, this team is still just too talented, and we've seen when they've been in deficits that their raw talent has kind of been able to just pick it up and just get you some bats, get you some strikeouts when you need it. I still am going to pick the Dodgers, and I'm going to have the Dodgers winning in 7. I think it's going to be close. I think you win tonight at home, and I think you have 2 hard-fought games in Atlanta. But listen, the Dodgers are just too talented for the Braves, and I think that even down 3-1, I'm going to pick the Dodgers, and I think we see a Red Sox-Dodgers World Series. So.
Do you have more confidence in the Dodgers being able to come back in this series or the Braves not being able to finish off the Dodgers?
A combination of both. Listen, it's not anything about Atlanta necessarily, but it's the fact that they're Atlanta and they've already done it once, and I don't think that's in their heads necessarily because it's not exactly the same team. And obviously you don't have Acuna, but we've seen it once, and I think it can happen again. And I think you could make the argument that last year's Braves team was better than this year's Braves team. And I think you can make the argument that this year's Dodgers team is better than last year's Dodgers team. And that's not exactly how it all works. Listen, you're still down 3-1. It's going to be an uphill battle, but I'm going to pick the Dodgers. Now, I thought you were going to ask me, do I have more confidence in the Red Sox coming down 3-2 or the Dodgers coming down 3-1? My answer would be I have more confidence in the Dodgers coming down 3-1. Which I don't think is like a mind-blowing take, but that's what I thought you were going to ask me, so I figured I'd answer that question too.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, but I was more so thinking, just because it seems like you're so confident in the Dodgers coming back, and I think I would be too, but it's just from what you've seen, that's what you can base your expectations on, and what I've seen is just a completely different team than what they were, not hitting with guys in running and scoring position. Now they did, Bellinger did in that one game, obviously, but they haven't been able to do that. They're just not playing the same baseball that they were playing in the regular season, and it's just I don't know. It's just they're asking too much maybe of some guys, or maybe some guys obviously aren't delivering like they should. Again, like Turner's hitting 167 in this series. That obviously just has to be better. So yeah, it's just a lot of stuff that's not going their way, and the Braves, you got to give them credit. I mean, they've played really good baseball. It will be weird, if the Braves do win, it'd be very weird to see them, just because you thought. Last year, I think that last year they were better than they were this year. If I expected them to make the World Series out of the last 2 years, I probably would have picked last year than this year. But
the Braves, 100%.
Yeah. They were a complete better team last year. But again, their additions at the deadline made a difference, and
we were both down on the Braves going into this year, I want to say.
I still had them winning the division going to this year.
I might have, but
I just thought it'd be closer.
We had this being a very competitive division.
Yeah, like I had the Nationals being at like 88 wins, which I still think they probably would have, but again, they obviously traded a lot of their pieces. But yeah, I think I had them at winning it, but the Nationals were there, the Mets were there, the Phillies were there, which it technically still was. It was just less wins than we thought it was going to be. We thought it would be like mid 90 wins. I think the Braves ended with 92 wins. I think we were thinking like 97 wins.
And the Marlins, we weren't like high in the Marlins or anything, but that was still
I think we had them decently there.
That was a playoff team last year.
Yeah, I
know it was a 60-game season, but I'm just.
And again, they finished this year 67 and 95. Obviously, the Nats were 65 wins, Mets 77, Phillies 82. Oh no, the Braves had 88 wins. They didn't even have 92. So, exactly, yeah, it was similar, but just way less wins and way less good baseball.
I thought this was going to be the NL, or sorry, not the NL. I thought this was going to be like the NFC West of the MLB. It wasn't really.
Almost like the AL East, where
you
had 4 teams that all basically 90 wins. I mean, they did have 90 wins, so.
Yeah, no, I thought this was going to be I thought we'd see one team with 95 and the rest would be really on that team's tail with 88, 90, 85, and then maybe the Marlins are chilling there with 75 wins, but still a very respectable record for the worst team in the division. Yeah, but listen, it's a complete letdown for baseball as a league if the Braves make the World Series. That, you have to be just really sad if you're baseball, because you obviously have the Dodgers, which are a top 3 biggest team in the league, obviously, being LA, and obviously just having all those names too. You have San Francisco, which is another just big team for baseball and had a bunch of players with career years. The narratives were all there. Chris Bryant had been traded at the deadline. That was a very exciting team as well, I think, for a lot of people. And obviously San Fran's another big market, and I think the Giants are a pretty big team because they arguably had a dynasty earlier, or I guess early last decade. And to have the Braves make it, no Acuna. Listen, I think if you're baseball, you have to be just very, very sad about it, because Mookie, Bellinger, Turner, Scherzer, Buehler, obviously no Kershaw, but Kershaw's still on that team. If the Giants had made it, then, listen, you don't have Mookie or anything, but you still have Chris Bryant. You still have some other names there. That's a big market, and a great team, over 100 wins. For the Braves to make it, I think, listen, even the people in Atlanta, I'm not sure, really care about the Braves. So,
well, I think MLB would be more sad because of the West Coast. You'd rather get a Dodgers Red Sox, which gets the West Coast and the East Coast, and again, 2 of the 3 biggest markets in baseball. So you're gonna get all the West Coast people, all the East Coast people, and then you're still gonna get the middle of the country. And then if you were at the Astros Dodgers, you would obviously have still the Central and the West, but you'd have the Dodgers Astros, a rematch of a World Series. Again, you would have the Red Sox as well, but that's when the cheating thing happened, so you could play that whole storyline. While when you do the Braves, it's what exact history do the Braves and the Astros? Obviously, they played the Astros were in the NL before, so I guess you have some history there. But I don't think they ever really met in a championship series or anything. Maybe if they did, but it wasn't anything crazy because I feel like we would have remembered it. Obviously, Braves Red Sox. I don't know if they've ever played. If they did, it was in the 40s or 50s or anything like that. Again, the Red Sox came from Atlanta, or the Braves came from Boston, I should say. But again, that's not. No one really cares about that. So yeah, I would agree with that. Not even just the stars on the field, but also just the locations and the history that the two potential matchups would have had. So it probably is going to be a loss for baseball, I would say.
I think it's a huge loss. It's hard to understate it, I think, or overstate it. Sorry.
Unless it's just an amazing World Series, But
even then, the ratings are going to be awful. And listen, I feel like I say this a lot, but baseball, out of the 4 major sports, is the one that's declining the most, and I'm not sure it's close. Basketball is obviously is the national sport probably out of all the 4 major sports. Hockey is picking up relevance. They've always been the least popular out of the 4 sports, but even they're picking up some popularity.
Wait, did you say basketball was the most
national sport?
Yeah,
I think it is. Yeah,
I don't know. I think NFL is.
No, I know NFL's the biggest sport, but I think NBA is the most national. Like when I say
Nationally
national,
covered?
when I say national, I mean like they're like baseball and hockey are very local. Like
Yeah, they're regional sports.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like you're following your team for the most part, but you're
Yeah.
not like, baseball's not a big like, most people aren't following.
You're saying basketball, like there's like the star-driven league, so that
Basketball's a
more people
star
stay attached
player-driven
to a
league.
star player.
You're attached to players. You're attached to the league more. Obviously you have a favorite team. Most people do, but typically most people don't just follow your team if you're a basketball fan. You follow the league.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Baseball and hockey are very regional. They're very local. Football is kind of a mix of both. I think you have a lot of local regional fans and a lot of national fans. It's just the biggest sport in America. But yeah, I think basketball is the most national one. I think specifically basketball and football are just huge. Hockey's picking up popularity in the spots where it hadn't been popular, aka everywhere other than like New England and Minnesota and Canada. I think it's picking up popularity there. And baseball has just been falling out of favor, especially with the younger generation. And I think people will be much more interested to watch a Dodgers-Astros or a Dodgers-Red Sox series than they would be to watch either Red Sox or Astros versus Atlanta. I think the ratings will be much worse, which I think is sad because obviously you want to get the highest ratings possible. And there's a chance like somebody like me, like I'm not exactly sure how the games are going to line up, but if there's a time where I have to pick a Thursday night game or a game 4 of Braves Astros, I mean, if that Thursday night game is a really good game or if that Monday night game's a really good game, there's a chance I miss a lot of that baseball game to watch the Thursday night / Monday night game. Or if it's I don't know, again, what the matchups would specifically be, but if there's a really good basketball game going on, there's a chance I watch some of the basketball game and miss some of the baseball game. And it's not like I'd miss the whole World Series game for, the third game of the Celtics season or third game of, like, the Lakers season, but it sucks for baseball. Because there's a lot of competition going on right now.
Yeah, this is the high. I mean, every single sport's going right now, so, they have to. They plan it out anyway, so, like, I'm confident like there won't be a Sunday night baseball game anytime soon, but that's something they have to look forward to or look at going forward. But switching to NBA, season started like we just said. We're going to talk about the first couple games, but first I think we almost have to talk about Ben Simmons. Ever since we last recorded till now, he's been at practice, but he hasn't been like I guess actually practicing and everything, and then he gets suspended for the first game for, they said, conduct detrimental to the team, but then it turns out they asked him to sub in for a defensive drill and he just said no, and then kept saying no, and then they just told him to leave practice and they suspended him. The Sixers won against the Pelicans last night in their first game, and then today they said that they had no practice today, team practice, but they wanted him to come in for individual work. He came in and then just left. He didn't even do anything, so he just basically came and then left like 5 minutes later. So just weird things are happening, and we thought maybe the situation get resolved. It's just clearly not. I mean, they just have to trade him, and you're not going to get value that you wanted. You just have to trade him at this point, in my opinion. Not for nothing, but you're just not going to get a Fox, a Halliburton, something like that you were hoping for. There's just no possible way. No team would ever want that. No team's ever going to give that up right now for what you want. And honestly, for them, you're still in a win-now mode. So do you go for the players or do you go for the picks later? Because I think a team would be more inclined to give up picks later in the future than give up players right now. But the Sixers are obviously looking for players because, again, they're still in a win-now mode. So it's a really weird situation, and I just think he's almost a guarantee he gets traded, right? I mean, I think we're on the same page with that.
No, I don't agree.
You don't? You don't think he gets traded?
I mean, I'm not going to say it. I think he gets traded, but listen, I'm still not trading him for like some bummy package of Marvin Bagley, Buddy Hield, and the 17th overall pick in next year's draft. To me, that's not worth it. I would rather have Ben Simmons ride the bench for the next 3 years and let him rot there. If I'm the Sixers, it's unfortunate, but if you're gonna pout and not play for this team, I'm not trading you for nothing. And that's essentially what you're getting. If the Sixers are win now, the last thing I'm doing is trading Ben Simmons for Marvin Bagley, the 16th overall pick, and Buddy Hield, because you're not winning now. If that's your case, that's more of a I don't even know what direction you would go in by making that
Well, that's a better move than just having him not play. Because
I 100% disagree.
Because if he doesn't play, you're not getting anything from either side. You're not getting guys coming in, and you're also not getting his production on the court. There's just no way he's going to play on the court. They want him to play, but he doesn't want to play. So what are you going to be able to do to change that? You're not going to trade Embiid. You're not changing coaches right now. You're not doing anything else to change. There's no change that you can make right now to this team that's going to make him want to play. There's just no way. So what is the decision that you have to make? I think it has to be to trade him. You just have to be. This is an unfortunate situation that probably should have worked out but didn't work out, and you have to move on and at least look to the rest of this season and next season as still being a championship contender. Now, will they probably win one? No, unless they get like a Lillard or someone like that. But you're not going to get that from Simmons. So what else is there to do with this team, and especially him? I think it just has to be to trade him. And again, you may go for a bad offer like that, but right now, I think that's the best situation for them right now.
Okay. Let's just say they don't make a trade and Ben Simmons sits the whole year. What seed would you have them around? And then what's their ceiling? Give me their seed and their ceiling.
Their ceiling, honestly, if they don't have Simmons at all for the season, let's say they don't get any other like all-star type guy, they basically have the same team. I think their ceiling is probably second round.
Okay, and what seed, like fourth seed we're talking?
I think Nets, Bucks would be ahead of them. I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta and Miami are there. So I think somewhere in the 4 or 5 range, I would say. Maybe 6, but I would honestly probably say 5. I think it's a good spot for them.
Okay, now let's say they make that trade. They trade Simmons for, we'll say, Bagley, Hield, and a lottery-protected first of some sort. Now give me that, and to answer the same question, give me their seed and their ceiling.
I think that they could, seed-wise, they'd probably be pretty similar. Maybe get to a 4, but I think 4 or 5. And I think they'd probably end up in the same way. But I think that's better. Because, look, I think that's better than keeping Simmons, because Simmons is never going to play for them.
Does it matter?
But he's never going to play for them. So what if he's never going to play for you and you're never going to get the value that you expected to get on him for the player that he is, then what does it matter? Because if you want to trade him after next year, it's still going to be the same value. So you might as well just do a trade now that at least gets you something for this year, for the years going forward. A pick in a draft. You might as well, because he's never going to play for the Sixers ever again. It's not like he's going to sit out this year, then he'll come back next year. He's never going to play for them. So what's the point of keeping him on the bench for 3 straight years?
I mean, listen,
we might as well try. Like the Braves, they tried to do something and it worked out. They could have just folded the season after Acuna got injured. They instead got Peterson and Soler, and now what do you know? They're one win away from the World Series. It could happen.
No.
It could. You don't know until you try, so that's what I'd say.
Well, listen, my answer to that is baseball and basketball are just drastically different sports. Basketball is a sport where there's essentially, even if we had the same amount of injuries as they had last year in the playoffs.
I was going to say, how about that?
But even the same, which is pretty much more than any season we've ever seen, that Sixers team is still not making the finals because the Bucks would still whoop them.
But what if the Bucks have to deal with injuries?
Okay, so what if the Nets, Bucks, and Hawks all just find a way to? No, even then
that happened last year. It's not totally impossible
because it did not happen to the Bucks. That's the most injuries we've seen in the playoffs in my lifetime. And unless I'm not betting on that when I'm making my moves. Yes, I understand that. If I thought a move would make the Sixers maybe the second best team in the East, then sure. But even trading for Bagley, Hield, or some sort of, maybe even if it's a Simmons for McCollum swap, which I think is more than you could even get on the market right now, this team is still not better than the Nets. They're still not better than the Bucks. And then you're still kind of in that same conversation with like the Hawks, Celtics, and Knicks. Maybe you're slightly better than those teams, but that's still not good enough, even with injuries, to win a final. So I'm not making a deal.
But even if
it's not the same as baseball, it's not like you can just get on a run, get hot, and players just don't perform well. That just doesn't happen in the NBA. It's a completely different sport. So I can't make that trade. Simmons is locked up until 2025, where he's an unrestricted free agent. You're not going to hold him out for 3 years, but listen, we thought he was traded in the offseason. We thought he was done after last year's playoffs. He's already been on the team longer than we expected. I don't think the Sixers plan to trade him for nothing, and by nothing I mean like a Bagley, Hield, or a McCollum swap. And I don't think that's the right move either, because I don't think it accomplishes anything for you in the short or long term. It doesn't make you a better short-term team, and realistically, getting the 16th pick and maybe an unprotected or Never. You're not even gonna get an unprotected first.
But I think the thing, and maybe you're looking at it, maybe you're not, but they're gonna have to trade him at some point. Let's say it's not right now. Let's say it's after the season or at the deadline. They're getting the same package no matter what. So why don't you just trade him now, and just cut ties with him, and then you can move on to the rest of your season?
Because I'm not completely sold you're getting the same package for him no matter what.
I think you are, because if he doesn't play this entire season, I seriously doubt that he's not going to get traded at some point. But let's say they don't trade him and he sits out the entire year. They don't play him at all. Why would his value go up at that point? Like, I don't understand how it goes up after he sits an entire year.
Because teams finally start to realize.
But they know he's going to get, like, they know that he's tradable. So why would his value go up when right now it's technically at his lowest that it could be? So, like, why would it go up, and then why would a team want to give more players up? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, it comes down to the fact that the package right now is so bad that it does not accomplish anything for me if I'm the Sixers.
But do you really see that package going up after this year?
Do I think there's a big chance? Not necessarily, but listen, I'm genuinely telling you that I would rather hold on to Simmons and not play him for a whole year than trade him for Bagley, Simmons, or Bagley, Hield, and a first.
But so what would be the package that you would be acceptable to trade him with? Because he's never going to go for a Lillard. Like, he's never going
to go for a Lillard. But
so you're happy with a McCollum? Like,
I'm happy with the 1% chance of. I'm happy with the 0.5% chance of him coming back to playing. And listen, let's just say you never trade him. Then
he's never going to play, though.
Then he's an unrestricted free agent in 2025.
Well, again, he's never going to sit out 3 straight years. That's not happening. It's almost not possible.
So then what happens?
It could happen.
Okay,
but in the NBA, he's gonna get traded because it's the NBA, and again, his agent's also Rich Paul, and he has a lot of say. Even though I don't like him at all, but he has a lot of say. He's gonna get traded. There's literally no way he doesn't get traded. He's not gonna sit for 3 years because it's never gonna get to the point where it's gonna ever reach 3 years because he's going to get traded. So there's just so many different aspects you have to look at that no matter what. The best time to trade him is right now because this is what his value is going to be. I'm sorry, but that's what it's going to be.
I do not agree. Listen, is his
value? But
you
still never answered my question though. What would be the package that you would be okay to accept?
There's not necessarily a package. Okay. Let me think of a package.
Because no matter what that package
is, it's then the package would be Bagley, Hield, and then the Sacramento Kings unprotected first-round picks for the next 3 years or 4 years. We'll say 3 years unprotected firsts, and then I don't know. It's just something more than it is right now.
But that's not trying to go for win now mode for the Sixers.
Okay, then either that or Bradley Beal or the next star that comes available. I can't predict it. Maybe it's Chris. Maybe Kristaps shows some potential or something, and you can trade for Kristaps and some picks or something. I'm just saying something more than Bagley, Hield, and a first. I'm not. I can't off the top of my head give you some sort of package, but give me, like, since we're in the NBA and really in any league, we see all-star caliber players, all NBA caliber players want to leave their team. Maybe in a year from now, Zion wants to leave, and you can package Simmons, Maxey, Seth Curry, and 2 or 3 first-round picks for Zion. Don't tell me Simmons is worth nothing. He's
frankly, not.
And look, also, by the way, listen, your take went from, in your little argument there, your take went from, this is his package, I don't think they should trade him, to then, since I kind of won, you went from, oh, well, this isn't going to happen.
Well, one, I don't know how you won this argument, but 2, if I said that, I agree that they shouldn't trade him for this package, but that is the package that's there, and that's the most likely outcome of this whole situation is him getting traded. And that is what the package is going to be for the rest of this contract, most likely. So that's the way I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it that way. Where I think you're thinking, do you really think there's a shot he's going to play for the Sixers again?
I think it's small, but I think there's a shot, yeah. I mean, he almost came back and played. He almost did come back and play. Give it another year if you were to hold on to him and not trade him.
I think he only came back to see if he could get traded and show teams that at least he's going to training camp. Okay, or at least go show up. He didn't even play.
Okay, but let's just not. I don't want to hear like this is going to happen when I give this take, but let's just say if I'm Daryl Morey right now and I don't trade Simmons and we come back next year in the offseason, you're telling me he's going to continue sitting out until 2025? There's literally no way he's going to just not play until 2025.
The only thing with that is that if this was like the NFL, I think that could be honestly a possible situation. But it's the NBA where you're guaranteed to move. There's just no way a team would so much rather trade you than have to deal with what's going on with you. And it's also a star-driven league, so like if you're just holding on to Ben Simmons, no matter how the other players think about him, and be like, oh, like they're not willing to just trade him, get rid of him, do whatever they want to have him not be on the team anymore. Like a team's gonna go to that length to just destroy this guy's career. Then why would a player want to go to Philadelphia? So there's also that aspect as well. You know that's true where a one-star player can completely change what happens with a team for the next 5, 10, 15 years, even if he's not even on that team. So
I agree with what you're saying there, but I don't think it applies to this Ben Simmons situation because I think even 90% of the players in the league right now look at Ben Simmons and think of him as a little bit of a clown.
I think they do right now, but if they continue to hold him out and not trade him, I think they may start to flip and be like, all right, they're really not going to trade this guy. Like, that's like he's doing everything. Like again, the Harden situation last year, he did everything possibly that he could to get traded, and they finally traded him. That's just what happens in the NBA. If you do anything you can to get traded, you will get traded.
Listen, I think this is a very rare case because the package is essentially nothing. It's a mint and a toothpick on the way out of the restaurant. How about that package for Harden?
Look at the package now. That was a terrible package for James Harden, who's a much better
player. But
it's
more than what Simmons is getting. And listen, I think you could have gotten more for Harden. And listen, this is kind of another thing is right now there is not a Harden that's looking to get out. The only person who's kind of potentially looking to get out was essentially Bradley Beal. Let's just wait. If you're the Sixers, wait for the next big guy to want to get out of his town because in the NBA and really in any sport, that's going to happen at least once a year. It happened with Harden. It may happen with Zion. It's not going to happen with Luka. He didn't sign that deal, but it's going to happen with a player. It doesn't have to be a Harden caliber. It could be a Beal caliber. It could be a Donovan. And it's not going to be Donovan Mitchell, but I'm just a player of that caliber wants out, and then suddenly Simmons turns from Bagley, Hield, and a 16th overall pick into maybe just a straight up swap for somebody like that, or Simmons plus Maxey plus Curry plus maybe a first or two for a player of really good caliber. He becomes a legit trade piece. And right now, even if they continue to hold out Simmons, I still think players will look at Simmons and say, listen, somehow everybody on the 76ers hates you. It's 12 players against one right now. If this was a Harden situation, then yeah, I think you can I think a lot of the players would look at Houston and say, like, what are you guys doing, right? But it's just not the same situation because we didn't have – the only player who, like, kind of spoke out against Harden was essentially John Wall, who was like, well, just give it a shot. Well, obviously not everybody's going to agree with John Wall because that team was garbage and they were rebuilding and they're obviously rebuilding now. These situations are not the same for me. I don't see a situation in which suddenly even the players on the Sixers start getting on Ben Simmons' side and saying, listen – trade Simmons. Like I don't see it. I don't see it.
Well, first, the package for Harden, they got Dante Exum, Victor Oladipo, and a 2022 first round pick.
Well, they got Karis LeVert.
Yeah, but they traded him.
No, I know.
They traded him and a second round pick for Oladipo.
But that's
so they technically didn't get LeVert.
No, but that
wasn't separate. It was a 3-team deal. So it was a 4-team deal.
But they didn't have to make that deal. They could have kept LeVert if they wanted to.
But they did make it, and that was part of that trade. So
no, but I'm just saying that to say they got Oladipo and they couldn't have gotten better than Oladipo is BS. They wanted Oladipo, which is obviously a mistake looking back at it. They could have had LeVert.
That's the trade details, and that's what happened.
Okay, but I'm also saying that they could have gotten a lot better than that, and I don't think these situations are the same.
Okay, you're also saying the Sixers could get a lot better than that for Simmons. I don't think they can, and
not right now.
Maybe at some point a semi superstar becomes available and they could trade Simmons for him. But also at that point, is that guy, if you have to trade Simmons, Simmons is never going to go in a swap for a semi-all-star or a semi-superstar type guy because the offense just isn't there. He's not good enough offensively to do that.
Straight swap?
You would have to – No, I know. And I'm saying if the other pieces that you'd have to give up are those pieces added up, they equal the guy that you're about to get, who's not a superstar. He's probably most likely a semi-superstar. Like a Beal. Beal doesn't change your whole team as a whole depending on what you have to give up for him. So I think there's a lot of back and forth in that. I think you have to know the player, the situation on that side as well, and what you're giving up on your side. I think it's too many obstacles to deal with. And again, you don't even know if that's ever going to happen and that case is ever going to come up. You think it will. It most likely will, but you don't know. And I think there's too many questions if you wait too much longer. I think the right answer is to trade him sooner rather than later.
Listen, I'm going to try to wrap it up, but I genuinely think, and this is what I'll leave it out on, if they were to trade Simmons right now for some package similar to Bagley, Heald, and the 16th overall pick, that would be the biggest mistake that this franchise has made in a long time.
Not drafting 3 centers in 3 straight years?
The biggest mistake since then, sure. Sure. We talked about it, but yeah, we obviously disagree. We'll see who's right. This is going to be an interesting thing. This is like a topic where we both, I think, definitely disagree.
Yeah, we definitely do.
And a lot of things on the show we typically agree on, I feel like our 3 up, 3 down, we're pretty much
that's
the
pretty,
same.
I mean, that's pretty.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like.
I think for most star-studded occasions and situations, we probably do agree mostly on, and stuff like that. But yeah, we definitely disagree on this one, and we'll see. But I think, I mean, obviously I know I'm the one saying it, but I think most people would probably agree with what I would say, in that the expectation and what you probably have to do is just to trade him sooner than later.
I think most people would agree with that, but I think most people are wrong. So,
well, I guess we'll see. We didn't even talk about the first 2 games, but honestly, I don't mean, do you want to talk about it at this point? We kind of spent 20 minutes on that. So,
very quick 1 minute on both. Warriors, Lakers, I guess I'll just start off with saying the Lakers are a very thin team.
They had like 5 guys out with injuries tonight for that game, to be fair.
A very thin team regardless. Listen, essentially you're relying on a bunch of, and somebody said this, I don't know if it was on the broadcast or I was on social media or something, but they essentially said that the Lakers are privileged to have Howard and Rondo and Melo as future Hall of Famers, quote unquote, coming off the bench. That is not a privilege. That is like, listen, this team is thin, and you're going to need, for this team to win the championship, which they can do, I'm not saying they can't, you need LeBron to be the best player in the world, or the second best, and you need AD to be a top 6 player in the world, and then you need Russell Westbrook to be a legitimate top 30 player.
I think all those things will happen, and this team right now is currently constructed.
Maybe top 20.
Not even going to come close to what it's going to look like when the playoffs start. I think we both know that. Trades, buyouts, everything like that. But it's only been 1 game, and people are going to talk about the Westbrook chemistry stuff, like all that stuff. And he didn't play. He didn't have a good game. He didn't. But it was the first game. I mean, we'll see what happens after 20 games.
No, listen, we're on the same.
Yeah, I know you're not the one saying that, but to everyone else who's saying that, it was 1 game. Where clearly they have chemistry problems, and I think what the rotation should be for them is to have Westbrook lead the second unit, so that he can have his own time where it's only him on the court. I think that is the correct rotation you should use, and then you should play LeBron and AD together, because that's when they're at their best, is when they're both on the court at the same time, and LeBron's the point guard. That's the rotation that they should use, and I think they'll figure it out at some point. But that is their best rotation between the 3 best players on that team. But unless you have anything else to say about that game, I have to say something about the Bucks-Nets game.
Go for it.
It completely counteracts the point I just said, but the Bucks are better than the Nets, and like I said, it completely counteracts exactly what I just said. It's been 1 game, but I have so much confidence that the Bucks are better than the Nets that it's crazy. Watching that game, I just saw everything I needed to see, and I have supreme confidence in the Bucks. And like I said, my pick was the Bucks, and you completely questioned it, and I think that game answered it. And again, it was 1 game, but it really showed that Giannis is the best player in the world. I don't think there's a doubt about that right now. And I know you disagree with that, or maybe not even that he's the best player, but you disagree that he could be that type of player. I think he is that type of player.
Well, I don't know what you mean by that.
Like, he's like a KD, a LeBron level, like where they're just they can take over a game by themselves. They can lead a team to a championship. Like Giannis, I think he's now on that level, like being that type of guy. I think he's right there right now.
I think he's on that level, minus the fact that he doesn't have a solid jump shot. So I think
he looked a lot better. He's looked a lot better with the jump shot.
He's looked better. I'm not completely, again, listen, I think it's going to be better, but how much better, I'm not too sure on. Right now, I'd have him as the best player in the world. And it's one game, but yeah, he's the best player in the world. Am I super confident that the Bucks are better than the Nets? No. Listen, Kyrie may come back at some point. I would anticipate he does. But even without Kyrie, I still think these teams are pretty close. I still view, if you want to say Giannis is better, sure, I would agree with it. Giannis and KD are 1A, 1B in a series against each other. They almost equal each other out, at least on paper. And then Harden is by far still the second best, or I guess technically the third best player in the series. But if you exclude Giannis and KD, which even if Giannis is better, it's not a wide margin. They're still both very good, and both can take a game over at any point. Harden is way closer to being on that level than he is to being on Chris Middleton's level, in my opinion. And
for sure.
And I just think, listen, the NBA's star power, and while depth matters and role players matter, I don't think Middleton's good enough to get it done. I'm not sure Drew Holiday, he doesn't have to be like, that guy, but I just, Harden, and if Kyrie comes back too, Harden didn't have a good game, really. And I think it's going to take some time for him to kind of get used to the fact that he can't just shoot 20 free throws a game like he used to be able to. I think that's going to take a little while to get used to. And I think it's also going to take a little while to get used to life with Kyrie non-existent. It's not like last year they all played together a bunch, but I think it's going to take a little bit of adjusting to get used to. And when Kyrie does come back, if he does come back, I think it's going to take a little bit of adjusting to again. And listen, I think the Bucks are a better regular season team than the Nets regardless anyways, but when it comes to the playoffs, I still have my take that the Nets are the better team, and so.
The one thing I'll say right now is that I think the Bucks, when DiVincenzo comes back from his injury, is that they know their first 8 guys. Like they have an 8 guys, are all solid. And their bench guys who can shoot. Again, I don't even think Bobby Portis played in this game. So I guess they really kind of have like 9 guys that they're confident in and have trust in. While the Nets, look, they have their starting lineup. And again, let's just assume Kyrie plays. Like they have Kyrie, KD, Harden, Joe Harris, and then like a Griffin Claxton kind of thing. And then I think Patty Mills is a really underrated pickup. But I think they have a little bit more questions with that depth towards the end. And again, when it comes to the playoffs, obviously your rotation shortened. So you're looking at 8 to 9 guys. I kind of like the Bucks 8 to 9 guys better than the Nets 8 to 9 guys right now. Now again, that could change just like the Lakers, where they have buyouts and trades and everything like that. But right now, I like the Bucks 8 to 9 better than the Nets 8 to 9.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I just think player 3 out of those 18 players is just so much better than player 4.
Well, he needs to play like the top 5 player that he was. Like, he needs to play like that.
Middleton, you're saying? Or?
No, Harden.
Oh, Harden. Yeah, I think he will.
I mean, we just haven't seen it in the playoffs, that's all. So he needs to be able to play like that for me to really believe in that, because he just hasn't done it.
So you didn't think he had to last year then, assuming he was healthy? He didn't.
Well, last year I think was a little bit different because this whole Kyrie situation that's happening this year, and again, and that was also before Giannis, I think, transformed into another type of player. Like, he was already one of the best players, but then he transformed into being, again, arguably the best player in the league, with no question. So that also happened. Again, the Kyrie situation, he got injured last year, which it's not the whole problem it is this year. But again, Harden couldn't step up last year. I know he was injured, but he still couldn't step up. He needs to be able to be that like third best player who's playing like the second best player in that series. And not just a guy who's going to give you 20 points, be inefficient, get your rebounds and assists and do all that stuff. But he needs to be able to put up like a solid 25 per game and be efficient and be someone you could trust at the end of the game to take shots and make decisions.
Sure. All right. Well, that's NBA. Talked MLB, talked NFL, talked Cowboys, talked Pats. That's pretty much it. Appreciate everybody who stayed to the end of this episode. Pretty solid episode. A lot of stuff to talk about today. We'll be back Sunday night after those games. Feel free to check out everything in the description, Clips channel, all that. Yeah, anything else, Brandon? Or
no, that's it. Yeah, I guess by Sunday night we'll see the end of the Astros Red Sox series, but the Dodgers, but I guess that night could potentially be Game 7. So we'll see.
Yeah, and so we will see.
Yep.
Goodbye.